Good morning, everybody. Wow, I am tired. I stayed up way too late last night, but here I am, and we're gonna get started today. I'm excited about this VFX shot because I've been wanting to do some more bloody gory VFX shots for a bit now, and this will be a fun opportunity to do so. Let me mute this over here. I've got my little chat window up down there on my phone, but in order for me to do that, because like that screen up there, it doesn't act, it's like I have to look all the way over there, and then if you guys are asking anything, I usually am like working in between. But yes, let's go and get started. We actually have a pretty hefty VFX shot. Echo. Is there an echo? Uh-oh. You decided to learn this composition. Is there an echo? Let me figure this out. I'm working on the sound. Sorry, guys. We will resolve said issues momentarily. I believe that would have gotten rid of the echo if there was the echo. Let me know. Give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down if there's any more issues with that. You don't hear an echo. Okay, well then that might be Matthias, could you potentially be having two windows up at the same time? I just re-enabled the music, but let's go ahead and look at our shot in the meantime. Let me know if there's any more issues. You're good now. Okay, I might have had a bit of an echo there, but I think we fixed it. Alright, so this is the VFX shot that we'll be doing today. This lady walking away with, now she has a knife in her hand, but I thought it'd be fun to add a knife into his back here. This is from the Action VFX website. You guys can grab these assets by clicking on this link in the description below. It'll take you over to the page where you can download a bunch of their stuff. Actually, I'll just show you. It'll take you to their knife stabbing VFX shots. I am using clip 5 right here of her walking away, and I created a visual effects plate already in Aces CG. So this is the material we'll be using today, and a good amount of these different gore effects as well. The only other thing that I got was a knife from CG Trader, and it was free, so you guys can go grab it yourself if you would like that. And of course, if you don't want to grab those assets that way, you can always subscribe to the Patreon. We upload all of our project files, like last week where we were creating a CG shot, but as well as early uploads of videos and all these tutorials that we create as well. But you get every single project file that we do after the live stream's over, so you guys can go grab those immediately and mess around with those. But yeah, I mean, let's go ahead and get started. We've got quite a bit of stuff here to do today. There's the chat's already going crazy, and I'm trying to catch up with it. I dropped dimension modeling 101, so that helps me a little. Okay, great. Okay, so the first things first that you're going to notice, he is actually still breathing, which would be a continuity issue. I like how his fingers twitch. So creatively, I'm going to say that I don't want him to be breathing, but his fingers twitching are okay. Because, I mean, he's supposed to be dead, but, like, maybe his little aftershock of his fingers are still twitching. So let's go ahead and do that first. This is a pretty easy VFX thing to do. What we're going to do is we're just going to add in a frame hold. And then let's go ahead and add in, I like to just isolate the area in which we're going to want his body to be frozen at. And now if we look primarily at his body, let's see what's moving here. It's kind of like this whole section here. You could see this moving down there. Let's go ahead and just roto out his back area here. And we're going to go ahead and drop this in. For those of you guys new here, I am Connor, by the way, a visual effects supervisor at a company in Hollywood, and I do these live streams on the side where we try to create, well, this one we're trying to create a visual effects shot within the next 2 hours because I have to be at work. I have to leave it here by 10 to get to work, so this is just our midweek morning stream. We'll see. This is a bit of a hefty shot. I figured we might actually make this a part 1, part 2, but I guess we'll see. We'll say I didn't think very many people liked the fact that I did a part 1, part 2 last week with the explosions. So I'm going to try to see if I could get this done in an appropriate amount of time. That way, you know, not wasting too many people's times. But how are you guys doing so far this week? How was your Monday? Now your Tuesday. You don't see the compositor. Well, that would be a problem that I should probably press my F2 button for. Sorry about that. Now you could see the compositor. But yeah, this is, I've just been rotoing this out, and then this is already a freeze frame, so that way I can go ahead and drop this in. Can you have the other window and working on the screen as well? I can, well, yes, I think you're maybe a couple seconds long behind. Streaming in the morning is tough. Yes, I am not a morning person to begin with. And I have to wake up at 7 a.m., which I know you guys will be like, oh, that's not early at all. But I wake up at 7 a.m. so I can make this 8 a.m. live stream. Because it's early here, man. I'm tired. I shouldn't complain. Okay, so that looks fine. Let's auto alpha that. And let's see what we got here. So essentially what we're going to do, and you're going to notice there's actually a big problem here, is that since the light is flickering, that the area in which we freeze frame is not flickering as well. So the reason why, another good reason why we're actually freezing this is I don't have Boris effects for the Mocha mesh tracker right now on this computer. So having bloodstains moving with the body as he's breathing would be very difficult. So this is sometimes an easier thing to do, is just to freeze the area in which you want to have the track happen to. And if I did want that moving with his body but having it not warp, that's another way of doing it as well. But yeah, you find having coffee with 2 drops, having coffee with 2 drops of coffee and extra coffee helps. I don't like coffee. I know, blasphemy, but not a coffee person. So I'm actually, here's the deal. When it goes bright here, I'm going to want the back to match that brightness. And currently we could already see on frame 107 is a good example of this frame. So let's just look at this real quick. This is the difference between these 2 frames. And lucky enough for us, his body doesn't adjust or move that much. So we're going to use this as a reference frame for when it's bright. And then we'll have a dark version of the frame as well. I'm secretly British. Yeah, sure. I can neither confirm nor deny. No, I'm not. Definitely not British. Sorry. But the way we could do this, though, there's actually a cool trick. We do have the before and after frame of when this is bright, but we need to basically tell our compositor in kind of like the easiest way possible. Like we can animate it in and animate it out all we want. But maybe it'll be easier for us to have the computer do it for us. So let's go ahead and go into our read node here, and we're going to add in a curve tool. A curve tool basically finds the average intensities of like a specific pixel range area. And for right now, we're going to just probably add in, let's find our curve tool. We're going to find an area. I think if we scrub through the footage, whoops, I'm looking at a freeze frame, no wonder it's not doing anything. If we scrub through the footage, I want to find an area that is fairly contrasty, that's lighting up pretty well. We could see that on this couch back here, that it's lighting up as the light hits it. And I think that's going to be a good area for us to like check real quick and make our adjustments again. What's nice also is that that area is not moving, so we can actually get the average intensities pretty easily. So let's go to the area where it does light up, and I'm going to just move our curve tools adjustment to the pixels in which that is happening. So let's move that down and grab the bottom here as well. And ideally, we're just going to want this area, it's right up here against the couch. And now if we hit average intensities and we track this throughout the entire scene, what's going to happen is that it will create our intensity data based off of that part of the couch. Now, we can test this by, let's say we take a constant, and we can say we want this constant's color, we'll add an expression, to be set to our curve tool, intensity data, and that takes the intensity data right here and places it directly inside of this constant. And then more than likely we're going to want to multiply this by something like 25. Now, what we're going to see is that when it's off, it's lower, it's 0.85, but then when it's on, it's 1.2. So we could actually probably make this more extreme between the on and off version of it. So let's go ahead and edit this expression, and then let's add in like, let's just make this an int. So now on 107, it's set to 1, but then on 105, it's set to 0. Now what this is really useful for us now is to be able to basically create the alpha of when we want to swap back and forth between our frame 1000 and our frame 1007, because that's essentially our box of the light being hit type of thing. So great. So now instead of using this on our constant here, we can actually just go delete this, but I'm going to copy this expression that we just created here on this constant. We were basically using this as our visualization of how it would work. But we want to basically apply that to a merge node that's going to be merging between frame 1000 and frame 1007. And we can do that, again, just by having the two here. I'm going to go to our merge node, and we're going to edit our mix here to essentially, because again, it's just out of 1 here, we're going to edit this as add an expression, and then we'll just paste the one that we already created, which is taking that curve data and multiplying it by 25. And that, what it's going to do is on frame 1006, we don't have it, and frame 1007, if we're just looking at this merge node, it's basically just merging that lighting on top of it. And essentially, that's going to create our flickers in for us already. Now, go ahead and just replace this with that merge node. I think that's going to make it so that way when we watch our footage back here, his body should flicker at the same time as the rest of the environment. And it does. I'm thinking we're going to want... We might want the fall off of our roto here on his buttocks to be a little bit more, so that way we're not seeing too much of a line. Well, actually, let's make sure that I didn't just add multiple keyframes into here. So let's go delete that keyframe. Delete. Oh, we'll add a keyframe here, and then that way it's always on the first frame. Yeah, great. So now his back is not moving, but it is lighting up with the scene. So that works really well, actually, for us here. One more thing, guys, with the whole waking up early thing. It is funny because I don't talk to a single person before I go live. So it's like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All of a sudden I have to be like energetic and like talking. This is pure natural energy here, guys. I don't drink coffee, so essentially I just wake up and am. That's that's what it is. Alright, so now we have this shot frozen here. We're going to want to have a knife of some kind sticking in his back. There are a couple ways we could do this. I'm going to actually probably do this in Blender, which is probably not a great idea because who knows? we might run out of time because of this, but hey, it's fun. So I'm gonna clean up my comp here a little bit first, and let's add the knife in. I just realized also, like yesterday, I was like, oh, I haven't done anything out of Blender into Nuke yet inside of one of these live streams. So firstly, I want to talk about some color management stuff that I figured out this last week, and some of the methods in which we're going to be taking our CG from Blender and directly placing it inside of Nuke. Inside of Nuke, I am currently using a config file. It's Blender ACES config management. This is the ACES pipeline. I don't currently have the link. I'll post it in my Discord later. So if you guys aren't part of the Discord, join the link in the description below. But this is a config file that was created by some very smart people that were not me, and this is how to properly convert Blender color management to the ACES pipeline, and vice versa. I also have my visual effects plate here as ACES CG, and it's tagged as ACES CG here, and if I took it into Blender, it would view it as ACES as well. So I'm going to just do that real quick. Let's go ahead and create a new Blender file. I'm also probably going to want to render out just a single VFX shot. Yeah, this single VFX shot here as just a frame. Actually, no, we don't need to render it out. We already have it as an EXR. So let's just open this Blender up. Inside of our Blender file here, I'm gonna just go and delete our light and our cube that we have. And I'm going to import our image as plane. This is going to be our basis for what our scene is going to be. So I'm going to go to our VFX plate, and I'm going to find our first frame of our sequence. And now inside of Blender, I'm going to use cycles. But then also I'm going to ensure that our color management is set up to ACES. This is using the same ACES config file that I showed inside of Nuke. So now, if I'm going to add a new window here so you guys can see what I'm doing. Scale this up. And let's set this to 2048 by 1080. So we're just going to be viewing directly our visual effect shot. Now, everything is dark right now, but that's kind of expected. The reason why is because I'm doing it, basing it off of a shader. So let's go ahead and delete this and then just plug the image directly in. Now this color should match 1-for-1 with the, oh well actually it won't, because as it's importing it as linear sRGB, and we happen to know that it's ACES CG. So if we tag it as ACES CG and we go back to our Nuke comp, you'll notice that the color matches perfectly. And that's already step 1 to getting the setup correctly. Step 2 is that we only have our picture here. I'm going to move this further away, and we'll go ahead and scale this up. We're going to be using this as our lighting reference, but also let's after we do that, I want to project it from view. What that's going to do actually is it's going to make sure that the scaling is perfectly to the edge of the camera and is not going past the camera point. That's really important because we're going to be using this image as the reflective surface of where the knife is. So we do need that to be perfect. And we're only rendering out a still frame. We'll be doing 2 still frames, just as we did with the light flashing on the back. We will need that on the knife as well. So we'll just be rendering out 2 frames. One is with that specular highlight from the light on the side, and the other is without that. Let's work on just the basis of getting that knife there first. So right now we already have our image kind of set up here. I already projected the view. We need to now set up lighting. If I add in a cube just for reference, you'll notice that it's very dark and it doesn't match our scene whatsoever. We need to take the lighting from our visual effects shot and project that into our 3D world. Because right now, it is just a very dark cube inside of this scene. And sure, it reflects a little bit off of the surface of the background here, but it's not exactly doing what we need it to do. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's go to our world settings inside of Blender, and we can see that the color option right here is really dark gray, and that's what's being reflected onto this cube. So the first thing we want to do is just add in an environmental texture. Now normally this is where you would load in HDRI, but we didn't capture one, and as far as I know, on the Action VFX website, they don't have any HDRIs here either. Now this happens all the time when you're working on films, especially low budget films. They don't give you the proper VFX materials, and so you kind of have to make do without it. So in order for us to be able to fix this, we're just going to load in the same exact EXR file that we're using in our shot here. And that will kind of get us roughly in the world of the environment that we want to be in. You'll notice though that it's actually orienting everything kind of incorrectly here. So we're getting this green light behind us rather than on the other side where the window's supposed to be. So we can actually fix that by going into our shader editor, and we can go over to world options is essentially what we want to change. Instead of object, swap it over to world. And inside of our world options, let's add in a mapping node and a texture coordinate. And this will allow us to rotate everything around. Now, I think I have not done this in a while, but I think if you add in a UV sphere, you should be able to point this at the empty. I think, right? Maybe not. Even if not, that doesn't matter too much. We're just going to use our rotation of the right here. I'll have to look into that. I can't remember how that was done. But yeah, if we just rotate this by, 180 degrees, that'll place the window behind us, and it will place, the window behind the cube. And that's going to create more proper lighting to how the actual environment should be. But it's still not quite perfect. So we're going to do a few things ourselves. First, let's go ahead and add in some lighting. But we're going to be using this image as our reference, because we're going to try to match this as much as possible. I'm going to first delete our cube, and then we're going to add in a UV sphere. This is usually really helpful to just kind of get the overall tone correct. So if I grab this and just move this over, and grab this and move this here. One thing that I want to do with this is let's add in a new material and make this in complete, no, not metallic, but remove the roughness completely. Remove shade smoothness. And so now this is going to make a perfectly reflective material that we can use to see if it's lighting in our world correctly. Oops, I'm actually animating accidentally. Also, just for our sake, let's just remove the pass-throughs. That way I can see exactly what we're doing here. You could tell we're already kind of pretty close without having to add in any lights ourselves. But, of course, you know, we still can do a little bit better. So I'm thinking if we add in an area light, let's rotate this on the y-axis here. We're just going to kind of place it where that window is. Ideally, we're just going to try to recreate our environment as best as possible. So if I just increase the intensity on that, we're just going to try to get this light edge that we are getting around around our actual real life objects, but we want it to be on our CG material. So if I just get that green texture there, I'm just going to remove a little bit of that as well. And then a few other things we're going to want to do is let's go ahead and add in a ground plane down here. We'll scale this up. And again, if we hide that real quick, we'll add in a new material, call this floor. Since we're color managed, we could just use the color picker tool, and we really just want to get these brown tones that'll be popping up on the bottom of our sphere to allow it to set in the scene a little bit better. So if I Alt-H that. And this, I'm going to make the roughness all the way up. Let's delete our light here real quick. And that green light is pretty intense, so I did remove that. But this darker ground plane down here is allowing us to reflect a little bit better. I'm going to add in a new collection that's just going to be for lighting. And if we grab our plane that we don't want to see, I'm going to just enable indirect lighting, and that way we're not going to see any of the stuff that's reflecting from the bottom that's in our environment. The only other thing is we do want to rough out the location in which this guy is on the ground. So let's do that real quick. Probably grab this. Let's grab both these spheres and we're just going to move them up slightly. Scale that all the way. We are getting quite a bit of like green coming from the bottom here, and we're going to want to fix that. So let's go and scale this cube down. And now we're just going to rough out his body shape. And this doesn't have to be crazy perfect because we're not using this for mats or anything like that. We're just using it for lighting. Just line this up a little bit better here. Okay, great. And awesome. And so then again, I'm just going to add a new color in here. And if I hide that real quick, I do want to select this yellow t-shirt as our shirt. And we'll go ahead and place this under our lighting. Because again, these are just things that are going to help us essentially create the lighting reference of our entire shot. We want everything to feel like it's sitting within inside of the scene. And we're getting pretty close. Let's add in another sun, I think. And we're just going to kind of match this lighter light that is off camera. The great thing about using the actual visual effects plate as our reference for where the lighting is coming from is that we do get the light that's coming from behind the camera, but not or from in front of the camera where we can see behind our subject. But unfortunately, what it doesn't do is it doesn't replicate some of this other kind of granular lighting that we're getting inside of our scene. So we need to match that ourselves. So I'm just going to add in a sun. This is just a nice, easy way of doing that. We're probably going to make it a little bit more yellow tungsten to match our scene a little bit better. And then we might even half the lighting just a little bit. So that way it's kind of just a nice, soft, cascading light onto our scene. And there we go. I think this is going to match our scene pretty well. And so now we can add in our CG elements into our shot. And that shouldn't be a problem. So we can take these spheres, and I'm just going to create a collection called Ref. And that way we can just turn this off from our renders. I might even also turn it off from our view displays, like so. But if we ever want to turn that back on, we still have it. But our scene is now set up, and we can see that right here, that everything is working perfectly great for us. All we need to do now is add in our knife, and then we will be golden. So I'm going to go ahead and save this actually before I lose all my progress. Just call it knife scene. Oops, I actually saved it to the wrong live stream folder. That's hilarious. Move it over here just so that way I have it all in one location. All right, now I already downloaded the project files for our knife that we will be using. Let's open this file location. I'll show you. So I already downloaded the project files here. You can find this on CG Trader. It's just a kitchen knife. And, you know, it's just for our purposes today. But it does come in like an FBX file, so we're going to probably have to do some... Let's see if the textures really import. Probably not, knowing my luck. So just go ahead and import that FBX file there. Oh! And everything did load. So now we're just going to set up this in our shot. Again, we already have our body here, so we kind of just need to line this up to where we want the knife to be. And we might need to make some further lighting adjustments depending on how this looks. Okay. And then now, of course, with our cube that we have here, I actually also want this to be a holdout. So if we enable holdout, I'm going to do GPU here. And then if I scroll down, we're going to enable transparency. Now what the holdout function is going to do is it's actually going to create the map for us in 3D. Now we could just do this later with a roto node, but I find that sometimes it's more beneficial to just do it directly here, and then that way we don't have to worry about that. But let's make some adjustments to our material that we have. Oh goodness. Oh wait. Yeah, let's go to our object. Okay, so the roughness is decently high. I'm going to disable the roughness a bit. And, I mean, it's not dirty whatsoever. Honestly, this is the type of stuff that would normally want to spend a little bit more time on. And I don't know that we're going to have that time today to do this, which is just frustrating. This is like one of those things where it's like normally on... this is why the CG renders over the weekend take 4 to 5 hours. Is because, you know, I'm doing a lot of individual paint work. But it's okay. Let's do as much as we can here. I'm just going to get some rough texturing on there, and then I might adjust this more on my own off stream. But, you know, the idea is just to show you guys what we're doing here. So let's go ahead and create a new material. We're just going to call this Bloody, and then hit New Image, and it's just going to be a black image here. And if I go to my layout now, I want to load that image into our shader editor. So find our bloody material and then apply that. But if I go back over to texture painting now, should be able to just focus on this knife. And we're going to paint some blood onto this knife from where it's going into the body. Now an easy way of doing that is by using the texture mask functionality. So I'm going to hit new here, and we're going to load in a texture mask. So I'll just load that texture and find open. Now I have a whole pack of surface imperfections, and if you guys are part of the Render Raiders queue on Patreon, you get those for free. But this pack here is all these wonderful scratches and stains and cracks and dust and smudges and all sorts of different surface imperfections that you guys can grab. I already have this pack here, of course, so I'm going to... I'm going to use smudges. I like this smudges, probably, for this particular one. And because I'm using that under our texture mask here and not under texture, we want to remove it from our texture. what it's going to do is that everywhere it sees the white value, it's going to paint whatever color we have here. Now we're only using the mask functionality of this, so we can probably go in here and just paint in some blood stains that we would expect to get. And this part right here is, this takes a little bit of finessing to get exactly what you want. But we're going to just roughly go through this really quickly. Then using kind of that texture as well, we're going to add in some like flicks essentially to different aspects of the knife. It's not perfect, it's just this dude got stabbed to death here. I think that's going to get us pretty close. I mean, it's pretty rough, but just adding in some realism as much as possible to it, because she's like stab, stab, stab. It's like the blood's probably going up the knife, splattering a little bit as well. We're not going to see it from this side, so it doesn't matter as much. Let's go back to our layout now. Well, actually, real quick, I have to save this. Just save that texture under our material folder, and I will upload this to Patreon, of course, if you guys just want to drag and drop it. But now we have this new texture over here. So we have our original knife material, but then on top of that, we're going to want to have our own blood material. So let's go ahead and add in a new principled BSDF. If we just view that, so that way we see what we're working on. Just going to make it kind of red, and then remove all of the roughness on this. And our subsurface, we might want the... Actually, an easy way of doing this, because Blender updated their whole principled BSDF setup, so I can't remember exactly how to add in blood these days. Oh no, I don't have flip fluids installed. I was gonna... Okay. That's okay. It's rough, but it is what it is. Let's add in a new principled... I'm just going to add in a glass shader, probably. This is the easiest way to get the specularities. So Blender updated in 4 to like this whole new system of how it works, and I am currently not a huge fan because I knew exactly how the old version worked. So we're just going to use glass for right now, and then we'll use a mix shader. We're just trying to approximate this. Okay. And wherever this bloody material is, we're going to put the glass. We'll put that in the bottom, and the principled BSDF. So now if we view that, should give us kind of like more of a blood-stained knife texture that we can use. And, you know, of course, if we wanted to screw around with these shaders anymore, we could to get the exact look we want. It's pretty close there. And then before the knife goes in to the here, we're probably going to want some roughness. I also noticed this. They got rid of Musgrave out of Blender the other day. Like, what the hell, man? It's like my favorite, my favorite thing. It was my favorite noise texture for sure. Okay, so because we don't have Musgrave and I don't like the way the other noise textures work, we're just going to paint another one. So let's just do that. We'll call this roughness. New image. And I'm going to load in a new texture. So let's hit new, and then if we select that new texture over here, I can find another surface imperfections that we can load in. probably do either residue. I think residue might work nicely, or just a general dust 9. Let's do dust 9 and then go back to our tools over here. Make sure that the texture is not being utilized. But over here, this is going to be raking our material. So we do want that, so that way it's not painting everything over multiple times. So let's add in a new image texture to our shader window over here. And if I load in our roughness, everything will be back to just a black matte. So now if I just paint this, this is going to just rake everything. But you'll notice that everything is just in a straight line all the way up the knife. We're going to want the orientation to be random, because otherwise it's just going to be doing the same thing over and over and over again. But now, just give us a nice roughness material that we could drop in. I mostly just want this on the knife section here, not as much on the handle. But yeah, I think that'll look pretty nice there. And again, this is why you get nice surface imperfection. You don't have to do too much work. Basically, just drag, drop, then paint. So I'm going to hit save. I got my roughness here. And now if I go back into our layout window over here, you'll notice that's here. If I want this to be more visible, I can take the color ramp here and I can make this more contrasty, which I should test that out. Let's view that. Oh, not here. Whoops. Not for the blood. I'm fine with that guy. Let's use the color ramp over here on our roughness, and we're just gonna boost the visibility here to something like that. And now everywhere that's black is not going to be rough, and then everywhere that is white is going to be completely rough. Now the one thing we want to check here is that our roughness is already set to a 0.2. Now this came in from the FBX, but I don't want our knife to be like insanely glossy. So let's see if I can just copy paste that value into here. So now we're just gonna have our gray value and then our very white value. And if I increase that, let's actually just make this a little bit more non-rough. Now I could take this texture here and just feed this directly into our roughness. So let's do that. And voila, that's going to give us a little extra detail that we're barely going to be able to see, but we can kind of see it right there. But I also want to use this under our displacement. So let's use a math node and have this multiply. I'm going to take out of the original texture here. I'm going to multiply this by a higher value. Probably not that, but let's just see what that does for us. What this is going to do is it's going to allow us to add in some detail through the bump. Oops. I need this to be like a 4. I think it looks pretty nice. Okay, guys, let's render this out, and then we're going to want to do the lightened flash version of this shot as well. So let's save that and go to our render settings really quickly here, because we still have to do all of our compositing work. So I'm going to do OpenEXR multi-layer. It's what I prefer to render out as. And we're going to make sure that this is set to ACES CG. For our sequencer. And then of course on our render settings here, I'm going to override the color management here and make sure that's set to ACES CG as well. That way, when I render out of Blender and I take it into Nuke, it will perfectly be the correct color. So let's go ahead and do that real quick. I also noticed that this is decently low poly. So let's add in a subdivide surface. I only want the subdivide surface to be on the handle, so let's... This is really low poly up here, and that's going to bother me. So if we go to wireframe real quick, I'm going to select just the top part of this handle. Probably all the way to that portion. And if I press Y, it makes it its own separate kind of body piece there. And then I'm going to add in an extra edge loop on the bottom portion there. But if I select the top of the handle and I make it its own separate object completely, I can add in a subdivide surface just to the top part and not to the bottom part of the knife. And I think that's going to work pretty nicely for us, as long as this lines up here. I like to add in an extra edge loop to the bottom as well, just to make sure that that lines up. I like that. I think that works. So now this is going to be a lot smoother up here, and everything kind of fits a little bit better. I might even, let's say, cursor to selected here, and then we're just going to scale this up on our 3D cursor. I just want this to line up a little bit better. It like made the handle smaller, which is okay if it's slightly smaller like that. It actually adds a bit of realism to it, but it just felt disproportionately small compared to the rest of the knife. Okay, great. Now, with this being done, let's go ahead and render this out. We could just drop this directly into our scene. Oh, 1 second. Our background here. We want to make sure that this is also inside of our lighting reference and not. And of course, we'll just double check our work when we do that. We want to make sure that it's still lighting our shot like it did before, but we don't want to see it anymore. So if we place it in there, the knife will not change. In fact, actually, this you could see on here that the specularities are still coming through, but it's not visible in our render. We essentially only want to render out the knife as its own separate comp layer. So let's go ahead and render that real quick. I'm actually confused. Why is it at a weird angle? I think I might have done something wrong. I just realized you guys have been sending chats, but I haven't been able to see your chats. Sorry about that. I don't know if you guys have been asking questions or not. My phone's bugging out here, so it actually wasn't displaying my chat on the phone. I kept seeing it flicker out of the corner of my eye up there, but then when I'd look down here, there was no chats whatsoever. I don't think anyone would turn around the bulb. You turned around the bulb. What's the bulb? Subdivide on the, oh, the blade. Subdivide on the blade edge. I don't know that the subdivision on the blade edge worked too well. I wasn't a huge fan. Okay, why is this rendering weird? This is something I gotta figure out really quickly here. This is not supposed to... I don't know why it rendered out at such a weird angle. Oh! Well, that sucks. That's why, guys. Interesting. Let's get back to it. I accidentally, well, shoot. I'm going to try to approximate what I had before. Oh, man. Scale this up real quick. I accidentally it had a keyframe set, and it jumped the blade. Looks less like a kitchen knife with a subdivision on the edge. Okay, and I think this looks better though. So let's do medium point here if it's rotated slightly. And then I'm going to scale it down as well, just ever so slightly. Great. Save. Now, render it out without the background enabled. So we'll place that under lighting and render. Perfect. I was like, why is the knife moving? It's because it had a keyframe set, and she has two. It's fine now. She has 2 entry points instead of 1. Yeah, she had 2 knives. She was going cha 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 cha, just absolutely wrecking this dude. All right, so let's go ahead and save this. We're gonna save the image here. I always like to create a new folder called output, just to place that inside of, and we'll call this just as our own asset here. Let's go ahead and save this. Now it is overwriting the scene, or overwriting the render here. If we load this in under output, and I do need to shuffle the combined into the correct channels here. But now we could actually just merge this directly on top of our scene. And that should just work. Yeah, that knife is way too small. Wasn't really planning on spending this much time on the knife today. Let's see if we can just render this out. I'm just scaling up on the 3D cursor so that way we were able to get the knife to be in the correct location, but just also replacing it. Let's do that. Okay, perfect. I think that scaling works a lot better. Yeah, Ben, all good things take time, except for when you don't have any. I have an hour left to comp this shot. Oh no. Okay, so now we have our knife in there. While we're still in Blender, I want to create the high specularity version of the shot. So we already know that's on frame 7. I'm going to save this, and we're just going to save as a new version. Or we can actually, let's do it this way. We'll just say, let's call it reg lighting. And we're going to do a full complete copy. And we're going to call this, the timer's going tick, 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 tick. Let's go. We'll call this, instead of reg lighting, it'll be flash. And so now we have 2 separate scenes inside of Blender. I'm going to actually go to our world settings here, and we're just going to load in frame 1007, because we know that that's the frame where the light flash does happen for the first time. And if I load that in there, you'll notice that the highlights change ever so slightly on our image here, which is great. Our lighting is just automatically updating for us. But we also want to make sure that we don't need to add in any additional lighting, because it is coming from off camera here. So let's go ahead and add in, we do know that the light changes, an area light. I mean, we know the light changes because that's the only reason we're creating this separate render here. I'm going to just add in an area light and just position it up against the knife here. We're going to just turn up the brightness of this particular light. And we're just really trying to catch the specularities as much as possible. I like that. That works pretty nicely. It's pretty subtle. I'm going to duplicate it and just rotate this upwards. And decrease the amount of light here. Actually, I like the amount of light. I just want it to be more subtle. So let's just... I'm going to rotate that all the way around here. Let's put this on the other side. Just playing with the light until we could get something. See how that lights up that edge there? I like that, but I want it to be on the opposite side. And you see that roughness that we created in there? Oh, that looks lovely. It's pretty nice. I like that. So let's take the background now and move that down into our lighting reference again. And I'm gonna actually, one more thing. Let's take this light here and then just make this ever so slightly yellow. Yeah, I think that's the trick. So now we save that. We're just gonna render that out. We're gonna do the same thing we did before. We'll just call this version 2 though. Although version numbering is not probably the best way to go between the two different photos here, but you know, we'll make do. Sequences, and then select that as our option. So now we have two shuffles. We're going to do the same exact thing that we did before, which is just have the A input and the B input here. And it's going to flicker between the two of these depending on the average intensity over there. And honestly, we just copy paste that. That's totally fine. And yeah, so now if we play through it, it's just going to flicker our knife effect accordingly. And yes, now we have our knife coming in and going out. Need an egg timer? Yeah, I would agree. I think what we're gonna also do is let's take this guy, and then I'm going to add an expression where we're going to minus 0.25. This will allow us to adjust the amount of that intensity, because we went a little too far with the amount of our specularity on the knife. Now, it is weird that the light is only affecting this blade here, and it doesn't feel like it's affecting that whatsoever. So, let's fix that. So this is our... Oh, wait, there it is. Interesting. I might want to fake that a little bit more. You're saying the white outline on the blade specifically? Yeah, I think the knife up here needs to have a little bit more of specularity hitting it, because right now it's like you can't really see that. I mean, we're seeing it on the knife pretty nice, but it's not doing too much to our blade up here. So we can fix that by just adding in like a roto paint tool and then painting in some white. So I'm going to do that. And, whoops. Again, I'm just using my mouse here, so don't judge too hard, all right? Trying to get a straight line with your mouse. So now with this brush here, I can go to the root options. I think I might be able to multiply this on top of it. So let's go to stroke. And if we adjust the opacity here, this is going to control the amount of specularity that we're really getting on that edge. So I'm going to make sure that this is all set to all frames. And then now, when we go back over here, that little bit there added some paint to our total blade. Just going to make sure that's thick enough. We can always make some adjustments here, so we're going to do so. That's pretty good. I'm just going to follow the top here a little bit more. And great. Set that to all frames. And now, that should work a lot better. I think, yeah, that looks a lot better already. Now, there are a few other things that we're going to want to do in our shot here. It's like it still feels... Well, obviously, we haven't done any blood whatsoever to the shirt, but the knife is definitely sitting a lot better into our scene. Let's add in a few little things to the top of the blade here before we go into the bottom portion. But if we now take this knife, we can add in a light wrap. And I'm just going to make the intensity very slight. But we're going to take the B input here, which is the plate directly before it. And what that's going to do is it's basically going to average out the colors that are from behind it and then place that directly in front of it. The only problem is that it's putting quite a bit of diffuse on it. We don't want that. This is going to add in some nice chromatic aberration to the edge of our blade here, which adds like a nice bit of realism to the overall shot. We don't want to overdo it. Looking a lot better already. I'm still thinking this flicker. I guess. Let's see. Let's add a merge node in before this roto paint. I want to remove some of the flicker. If we just merge between the two of these before I do the roto paint and before the animation happens, I can actually control the amount of flicker just directly that way, specifically on the blade. I'm just thinking that that part of the blade was too much. I mean, it's a bit campy, so it's like if you're going for a campy VFX shot, then I think that helps a little bit. But for us, we're just gonna try to bring that down a little bit, match kind of his buttocks area of and her. Well, I keep looking at buttocks here for lighting references. Don't judge, all right? That's the only thing in the scene is basically his butt and her butt, all right? So, I mean, hey, I'm looking at the couch for reference on the amount of the lighting, okay? We're looking at the couch. We're not looking at anything else here. Okay, great. So yeah, I mean, I think that sets the knife in a little bit better. I'm concerned that... Oh, that's fine. I'm not a huge fan of the rest of this blade doesn't. Exactly. Buttocks are round shapes, so they're a good reference for light. Thank you. It's basically like having one of those light ball things inside of your setup. I don't know what I'm... Okay, overall, let's change the opacity here to like a 0.1. And I'm just going to paint in some of this blade here that we would like to see some sheen on. This is, you know, just some parts to make it feel like it's a bit of a shape. Yeah, that helps a lot with that part of the blade there. Just an artistic suggestion. Could you add an angle to the blade so it isn't straight up and down? It looks artificial. I could. It would require me to re-render stuff, Ben. I don't want to re-render stuff. Actually, no, we're gonna cheat this. Sure, I could totally do that. Yeah, I think just adding the transform node there works pretty well. That works a lot better anyways because it follows like the slope of his shirt. Now let's add some blood in so that way it actually looks like he's not just an android. He's not just an android with a knife stuck in the back of him. It's like, well, why would he be alive if that were the case? Or why would he be laying on the ground dead? Okay, I do think that lighting on the handle feels a lot better now. You know what? I'm a fan. I think it works. Knife still feels slightly small to me. Does it feel small to you guys? Okay, this works pretty nicely. Yes, I swapped from the Superman tutorial to this. It was the I just didn't have the assets in time to download and stuff like that, so I ended up swapping it last night, which I needed to do some shots like this anyways, for some practice for some work things. So I was like, hey, you know what? Let's take the opportunity right now to just do that. Okay, this feels good. I'm thinking that the lighting and everything matches pretty nicely. I think one more thing we're going to want to do, at least since it's CG, is we're going to denoise our original plate that we had. Let's just place that up here, I'm thinking. Something like that. And then we'll just denoise it completely. And then we're going to want to regrain everything at the very end of the whole tutorial. Or not the end of the whole tutorial. What am I saying? We're going to regrain everything at the very end of the whole comp here. We are going to regrain it at the end of the tutorial. I'm just going to go look at our grain option that we have there, and then we could see the difference here between the two. I'm going to Lessen the amount of red, probably the size as well. Let's just match the red first, and then we can go to the rest of the sequence. Perfect. Ever so slight amount of grain that we're adding into it. Am I making zombies? Should. I'd be down. Let's do zombies next week. I'm always down for some zombies. Okay, let's see that in playback here. And then we'll start to add in some blood onto the shirt, which we will grab some assets. Of course, use my link in the description. It'll send you over to the visual effects plate we're using today, but also it'll send you to some of these wonderful elements that we have. I already have some of those purchased, so I'm going to download some stuff. We got some different blood splatter whatnots that we could use. Some bleeding fabric, which I think will be very useful for what we're trying to do. And then eventually we'll put some blood on the ground where it's below him. You never know. The guy on the floor might get back up. True. Always cut the head off. The truth is that in order to ensure that someone is actually dead, you need to cut the head off. And every time they don't in a movie, I'm like, that guy's coming back. That guy's coming back. Oh, you know it. You know what's going to happen. So I had these. These were from some bullet VFX shots. So they'll work fine for us here. It's just blood after all. Download the 2 of those. Well, it wouldn't pull that quickly. It depends on how long she's been stabbing the dude for. Okay, that's all good. Let's go ahead and download both these assets into here. I'll need to apply like an 1886 color operator to this. Utility, let's see, utility sRGB texture. This should work fine, right? Yeah. Okay, and then this grain's going to go at the very bottom. But we can merge our other stuff over top of this. So let's apply this merge node here. Oh, goodness gracious. Which, by the way, guys, have you seen Fallout? I just watched that, like, all in 2 days. I watched the whole thing in 2 days, this whole last season, or first season. I watched the whole first season in, like, 2 days. What a great show. Holy camole. I love that show. That was a great show. This blood is going to happen before the knife. So this merge node here, we're going to remove for right now. And that's going to go at the very bottom of our stack. But yeah, I just watched Fallout. What a great show, guys. It really picked up in the end, too. I don't need the color corrector. But what I do need is a corner pin. And then we can take this corner pin and place this wherever we want in our sequence. We're going to kind of align the blood on the back of him. Backstory is important. 100%. Dudunch, was that supposed to be like was that supposed to be a, what's it called? Are you talking about backstory to the show, or are you talking about this? Because if you're talking about the VFX shot, that is the best pun ever. Backstory. Dudunch. Get it? Okay, whatever. Whatever. Backstory is important. And kind of get this lined up a little bit here. And then I want to view where the knife is. Yeah, that's okay. But now this will allow us to place this wherever we want. Great. And now it feels like the knife is sitting with inside of it. The backstory to the backstab. That's what I'm saying. I didn't know if you were talking about the show. Because we were just talking about the show, but I wasn't sure. Which, by the way, Nathaniel, welcome into the chat. I'm going to use a time offset here because this is all starting at like frame 1. We're at frame 1000. I am thinking that we're still going to want it to be like this far in. And we're going to have to fix some of the lighting issues here between the knife and the blood. Let's just see how this plays. I mean, just sitting on top, that looks... We're just mapping this out to see how well this plays back. Then a trick I like to do is once this is here, we're not going to use the over. Let's see if multiply works for us. What we're going to do is we're going to multiply it. And then we're going to use an additional merge node that's going to merge that over top of our original footage. And what that does for us, if I take a grade node here and I boost the lightness of this, this makes it look more like it's bleeding into the fabric rather than us having to make it feel like it's sitting on top of it. And all the crevices and lines that we would normally get, we're going to be getting. Oh, you didn't take the trash out. There's your backstory. I think we're going to want this to be a little bit darker. It's feeling a lot better too. And the nice thing about this is that the specularities then sit with inside of our scene a lot better for free. I mean, we don't have to do really anything to get that to happen. So did she only stab him once? And she came up from an, like, think about it. So if like she only stabbed him once, she had to have stabbed him multiple times, guys. Like she had to have, because otherwise it doesn't make sense that it's from an upward position. Unless she was stabbing upwards. Now we're analyzing this like we would analyze 12 Angry Men. Like that movie, 12 Angry Men. It's the best movie of all time. If you guys haven't seen it, go watch it. The direction of the projectile or the orientation in which the knife entered the clavicle or whatever. I don't know what I'm saying. All right, so with that being said, though, we're going to want to have other blood stains throughout. But now that we already have that guy in there, that's going to work decently well for us. Let's go and do that again. So we're going to add another transform node here. Cool thing is, we're just going to use this same multiply for everything going forward. But we're going to merge our other blood into like one layer that we can work with here. So, after we add another transform node in, I'm going to do a corner pin, and then we're going to do a merge node, and we're just going to merge this here. But if we take our corner pin now, we can drag this to whatever part of the body we want. So I'm thinking that we'll do a corner pin somewhere like here. Probably use another grade node similar to what we had done before. Maybe even more so, actually. Now, the other thing is I want it to feel like it's following the body downwards. So, let's see. Let's place that there. But it feels like it's going straight right now. So let's add in... a, what's that called? Why am I, oh, it's freaking, it's not a vector distortion. What? Grid warp. Holy camoly, guys. That took me way too long to figure out. We're going to add in a grid warp here. And we're going to grid warp the blood to follow the back down. You can tell I woke up early by how long it took me to figure out the name grid warp, guys. Holy crap. Let's add in pluses here. And just rotate this down. But the cool thing is now we can control the orientation which this blood is following. It gives us a lot of freedom to work with here. I'm probably not going to want it as much on the top side here. Yeah, well, it's not almost 12 here. It's almost my time to wake up normally. Now with this, though, I'm going to fix the corner pin a little bit. And then let's go back into our grid warp. Looks pretty good. And now, using another similar time offset, let's do that here. Probably not quite 900. Let's do... I want it to be more. Like that was one of the first blasts she did. Just want to see how this plays back here. You would have used mesh wrap. Don't they have a grid warp inside of After Effects? I can't remember. It's been too long. You know, what's funny also, though, is that... Well, it's not funny. This is sad. It's sad that he got stabbed like this. Who knows? It could have been for a purely innocent reason as to why. We don't know. We don't. We could kind of deduce. We could kind of figure it out. We could figure out something that he was not supposed to do something. He stopped using Adobe for CSX when it was subscription based. Oh, he has repeater grids. Okay, great. Okay, I'm going to take this image here, and a little trick we can do to help with adding some more blood speckles into our scene is let's take this guy, let's take it as an output, and then, sorry, matte painting. That's basically what we want to do. And we're just going to take this guy here, and we're just going to render him out at 16-bit. We're just going to render out this first frame. No, let's do the last frame. That way the blood is completely in the areas that we want it to be. I'm going to open up some Adobe Photoshop. So what we're going to do right now is that we have this knife kind of sitting here, but it does feel like it's not directly integrated in the scene. Now we can fix that with some blending and some feathering and you know, some general paint work here. But I've also found is that you can do this for free with some new AI tools, guys. We're not anti-AI around here. We try to embrace the AI. because it will embrace you. Maybe. I don't know if that's how that works or not. But with that being said, though, Photoshop does have some great tools for some paint stuff. So we're going to at least use it for that. I think, though, let's use this lasso tool here. If you select around the knife, I have found that this works pretty well. We use Generate Fill. What we're going to be doing is creating kind of like the intersecting part of the knife and of the blade and the ground here. And what this does is it creates like this like kind of I mean it makes it more realistic. Like I could do this stuff in the comp, but like why bother? Like if I could do this inside of After Effects for free, why not, right? It just works so much better. And now, of course, we can select our shirt here, and maybe we say blood specks. Actually, I wonder, because After Effects does have quite a bit of things that it doesn't like to do because it thinks that they're against its terms of service or whatever. So we may actually have problems with this. But let's see if it'll do blood specks on the shirt. Well, it's creating free dots for us. That's fantastic. Let's do that again here. Blood splatter. I just misspelled splatter. Let's see if it works. What did I say? I thought I said Photoshop. Adobe AI? See so much violence? What? I thought Is a tool one day be a part of you? Yes, it'll be in my brain. What did I say? There we go. Blood splatter. Just type in tomato sauce. Well, it's not working right now, but you're right. Let's do that. Tomato sauce. Blood splatter. It doesn't like blood spatter. Now we know that. Well, it put a tomato there. Although that blood splatter is not terrible. Let's use this and then multiply it back on top of your whole image. Oh no, we don't want to do that. Oh no, it's fine. Let's see what I got under I got some blood splatter that I generated using Midjourney, because what I find that is nice about some of the stuff is like if you can use this stuff, you know, inside of your workflow, you know, figure it out. Because, I mean, how else am I going to get a blood splatter without purchasing assets? But you can purchase this from like a company like Action VFX, sure. Or you could just go get it yourself. Alright, that should be fine. And then we're going to use this to multiply. That's what we want to do. Multiply. Where's the multiply? There it is. And that's good. I do want the color to match a little bit better. So we're going to do some adjustments here to the curves. And then let's make some adjustments to the saturation. And then let's make some adjustments to, if we go to liquefy this, and it popped it up on this window over here. But essentially what we want to do is we want to smudge this to make it feel more not flat. Try to follow the shape of his body as best as possible. Click OK. And there we go. That's going to feel a lot better there. Now this edge here is still decently sharp, so all we have to do is generate that back in there. Now I gotta catch up on chat here. Promo refreshes your free. Okay, cool. I'm reading chat real quick here, guys. Chubba 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 chubba. That still doesn't feel good to me. I don't like that. What we could do, let's just go back to liquefy here. Oops, I selected the wrong liquefy option. Fix the top of this. Feels like it was floating too much. And select the top portion of this. And fix that there. Yeah, I could get a hard eraser. I'm going to try fixing it this way first, and then see what we get out of that. No, definitely not. And then we're just going to see if we can follow this edge a little bit better. Still feels like it's floating down here. This whole thing feels... Can't put my finger on it. Feels a lot better. Yeah. I'm sorry, did Photoshop change back to one time? I don't know about that. Wait, who bought Photoshop one time? Yeah, I haven't used Photoshop one time since like college, dude. Like they changed it way back then. Ripped shirt, maybe? Let's try some of that. Well, that ripped shirt didn't work. Torn shirt. Let's try that. Torn shirt. Yeah, but okay. So is GIMP is a free software, but Photoshop is just way better than GIMP. You know what I'm saying? Like you can get free stuff, but I've noticed at least with like how like Photoshop is like the one time that I feel like it's worth it. It's like super worth it. I like that. That works pretty good. We're going to save this Photoshop file. Just save it into map paintings, it's fine. Now, if you guys think that I'm internally screaming as I'm trying to get this to be finished for today, then you would be right. Okay, great. Now that we have that finished, let's go ahead and import in our matte painting. And I'm going to tag this as our output 709. That should match, well, it should match perfectly. It does, and we're happy about it. So let's go ahead, and what we're going to want to do is we're importing this as basically just a texture that we can apply in very specific areas. Obviously, we did some additional paint work with adding in some more blood and things like that, which we got to do for free, which is fantastic. Now, all I have to do is just isolate those areas in which we did that paint work, and then we can comp that on top of everything. So the first thing, and what the most important thing that we did, is we changed this blade here. So let's just select this area in which the blade intersects with the blood. So now if I select that as just RGBA there, we can actually merge this over top of our sequence. And now we're just fixing that part of the blade there, and we're using this kind of still image as our projection of what we want. The only thing is I want to make sure that, yeah, and this is where we might get some problems here, is that the blood kind of like animates on. We could fix that also just by adding in a blur node here, honestly, and just blurring that out slightly. I'm not going to see the difference. We could have also had that animate in, but it's not that difficult to do. And so now we have kind of this blade that's stuck into the shirt here, and it looks a lot better. Now that feels definitely a lot more integrated into the scene. I will say that we're going to want to fix this bottom edge here at the end of our shot, as well as our beginning of our shot. And so now that feels a lot more like it's part of the actual setup. Now, let's do a couple of these other options that we have. Let's go back to our roto here and kind of pick and choose what we want to have in our shot. I'm thinking it's not going to get us... I'm going to probably roto decently close to the edge here. Concerned about the light flickering that we have happen later. Let's see how this looks. I want to see what this looks like before. Yeah, that's fine. Let's go back in here, and then we're just going to roto around this edge here. And we'll roto around this edge here. And these aren't animating in or anything like that because they're just stills. Now we could have done this by getting more assets from Action VFX and comping that in that way, but I just figured it might be a fun experiment to try it through Photoshop as well. Honestly, that's just a preference, up to you guys what you want to do. Depends on how much there is, you know? Like, if there's a lot, then I'm not sure that I like that blood splatter up there. I think I could live without that one that's all the way up there. And so now this one's not growing. This one's falling down the side of his shirt. This one is getting larger since that's where the knife is currently plunged into. Now you guys are saying, yeah, I guess you're right. If he was only stabbed in the back and not stabbed in the front, then there wouldn't be any blood pooling on the ground. That makes sense. Would those blood stains have holes from the knife? They would, but that would mean more time that he doesn't have. That is 100% true. I tried to get it to. I was trying to see if I could get ripped, like a ripped thing inside of Photoshop, but it was like not working, man. So it's like I could totally do that. Honestly, I'd probably do it. So the way I did one of the shots in my reel that you guys can see at the beginning of the live streams that I play is a shot of Morgan Freeman getting shot, and that one I did a simulation in Blender with a cloth that kind of blew out, and then I put his skin under it as the bullet was bleeding from there, and that looks pretty cool. I would probably do that here. But you know, this is just one of those things where it's like I didn't even want to create a blade. Like a few weeks ago when I started these VFX streams, I didn't really want to do too much Blender stuff because it just takes too much time, and I don't have time. I have a real job that I have to go to after this. I'm gonna add in some saturation, or remove some saturation here. I'm just gonna do like a pseudo grade on top of it so we know where this is going. I'll blur this up a bit. And that's going to give us a bit of a vignette too. There we go. Can you make a tutorial on bullet hits impacts the body? I could, yes. Better VFX is equal to more time. However, not for Marvel VFX artists. Yeah, it depends, because sometimes they'll get a lot of time, but they're also given like 3,000 VFX shots to do, by the way. So it's a lot of VFX. Teaching others always is always a real job. Hey, you're right. This is a real job. I'm excited to see more AI implementations into movies. Yeah, it is cool to see kind of the stuff that's being used for. I've been using a little bit of kind of just everything. And it's cool to see what, you know, they're adding into like Midjourney, Stable Diffusion. Copycat with inside of Nuke is extremely powerful. If you guys don't use Nuke, then you should get Nuke. It's like the best compositing software that there is. This is feeling pretty nice. What do you guys think? I did like a tiny little camera push in. And then I graded it, of course, with a bit of a vignette and whatnot to like sell the VFX shot. Quantum computing does need to hurry up. However, quantum computing is for processing. It's not for video RAM. So it's not going to be instantaneous VRAM. It's going to be instantaneous calculations, which is CPU based, and that's not graphics intensive. But who knows? Maybe they'll change the way people do stuff. What do you mean a rom-com that has a character die? Rom-coms characters don't die. Aside from the shades of the blood patches, it looks good. Motion of the blood, etc. Are you not a fan of like this blood patch shape right here? I'm wondering. I don't want to Google stab wounds, but I'm going to. Off screen so you guys don't have to see this. I need to do some research. Stab wounds. Images. And they're all blurred out. For great reason. Oh my god. Ugh. Ugh. Why did I Google this? Rom-com characters don't die, their feelings do. He is twitching his finger. Yeah, blood through the fabric wouldn't generally spread at the same rate due to inconsistency in the material. True. That is true. Thinking another thing we could add in is the actual stab effect. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to rip something off real quick. Okay. Okay, top tier entry point right there. Yeah, dude's going to be get a channel strike. Hey, this is not real. This is not a real. This is a cheery actually that we distorted in a weird way. It's not anything. Let's move my grading out. Oops, sorry. F2. There's so you guys can see what I'm doing here. So I took a image here, and then this is all the camera movement. Let's merge this on top. And add in a corner pin to this guy, which we will place specifically on this section here. Well, viewer discretion is advised from like freaking the title of the video, which is stabbing visual effects shot. If you're walking into a stabbing visual effects shot tutorial and you're not expecting to see some stabbing stuff, then I don't know what to tell you, man. Sounds like a YP. Let's grab the transform here, and now I can just place this where the actual, and try to match the size of the blade there. Is essentially what we're going to try to do. And then I'm also going to auto alpha this. Now, overall, we're going to want this effect to be darker here, so we'll just probably make it a lot slighter. Or darker, and then that way it just catches the light a little bit better. Take the gain here and just increase that. Yeah, that feels pretty good to me. I'm gonna take this and then rotate it. It's fine. Put it over the blade and then size it and move it back. I will probably do that as well, yes. I think we're going to place that one there, and then we're probably going to duplicate this. So let's just use another transform node and place this all the way at the top. I need the wound to be this direction, I think. Should add some ninja stars? Yeah, dude. One of these weeks we'll do that. Let's see. At the beginning of the sequence, it's already at that size, so I need this to live with inside of that, which we could totally do. Something like that should be fine. But now let's add another transform node in and just continue the overlaying. And then we can place this wherever we want it. So I'm going to place this back here onto this part of the body. And that's fine for that added detail. I think for this guy here, let's add another transform node in as well, and then we're just going to have to roto it slightly. This one here, we'll add a merge node on, just so we can chop out the section of the wound that we don't want. I'm going to grab this top portion here. Say RGBA. We're just going to invert that. Actually, I know what the problem is. It's merge this whole thing over a constant. And the constant's going to be set to the same size as our whole scene. So that's 2048 by 1080. Not the other way around. There it is. And by us merging that over top of everything, that's going to give us the ability to now add another merge node in. I know this is complicated, but the only reason why it is because I didn't set up my project settings to be 2048 by 1080. And so these blood stains are actually like weirdly formatted right now, which is not proper. It's just, it is what it is. So now we're just going to invert that. But now we're only getting the blood like kind of wound effect here, whereas it kind of feels more like it's diverged into the t-shirt now because of that. If chat had its way, this guy would become a voodoo doll. What am I missing here? How I'm like completely off. He used his Stanley Cup. Yeah, he used her Stanley Cup. She really took a needle and was stabbing a voodoo doll. So I'm like insanely focusing right now because it is 9:58 and I have like 2 minutes to finish this stream up. So we're working here. We're working. We're trying to get this done. I like that. Let's see it with everything applied to it. We'll have to do Ninja Stars for sure one week. This is a good time to let you guys know while this is caching. I do have a Patreon, so if you guys want to help support the channel, we release all of our YouTube videos there first. So when we cut these videos down to tutorials, they go up a week early on the Patreon. And then also, if you're part of the 1 tier, you get all the project files. So after this stream is over, I'm going to upload this Nuke script as well as any of the assets that I generated in this video directly to the Patreon, and you guys can go grab all the files there. It helps support the channel out, allows me to do keep working on this stuff and keep creating all these visual effect shots for you guys. And of course, if you want, join the Discord, and we post all of the finished videos. Like I'll be posting this render out to there once this is complete. And of course, you could revisit it later on and have some ketchup pulsing out of the holes you add it to for added effect. I could. Well, I could right now, too. It's not like I can't. I'm just running out of time. This is where I'm at, guys. I'm running out of time. I have all of these kind of like action VFX assets that I could use. It's like I could just comp those in. I mean, I'm out of time. This is frustrating. I hate it when like there's something I still want to do on this. This is all like very Quentin Tarantino though. I don't know that. Yeah, this is very Quentin Tarantino. I would almost want it to be like a, just like a, you know, just a little bit juicy. Go wah, 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 right? I don't know. Anyways, I'll upload the project files. If anyone wants to mess around with this, feel free to go download those project files. You guys can grab them up on the Patreon. They'll be up here in the next few minutes. And hey, if you guys want to add whatever blood you want in it, you want to add some ketchup sauce, do it. Like, it's up to you guys. Seems my fair share of holes in my life, and I know I have a picture of realistic disaster. Hey, now, I don't know. I've only seen video games, alright? So I couldn't tell you. But yeah, if you guys want to mess around with this more, then feel free. I'll upload even the FBX file as well and all that stuff. But hey, thank you guys so much for joining today's video. This has been fun. It's been a great one. I enjoy this. I will chat with you guys next time. We do weekly live streams. This is a weekly Tuesday VFX stream. And then, of course, we do our Sunday CG stream on top of it, where we spend a little bit more time in Blender and get some cool looking stuff there. But I'll see you guys next time. If you guys aren't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Make sure to lick that subscribe button. Go hit that subscribe button. You know, it's really good. It tastes good too. It's red, so it's probably like strawberries or like cherries or apple pie. Apple pie is red too. But I don't know. Anyways, I gotta go to work, guys. It's getting late. But I'll talk to you guys later. You guys have a good one. Peace out. And make sure to still create things and upload those to the Discords and the Instagrams and all that stuff. I look forward to seeing you. Talk to you guys later.